What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today, Wednesday, March 16th. I, of course, am your host, Sean Murphy, alongside. He is 6'2" from Marquette, Michigan. 6'3" from Marquette, Michigan. The UP Dirk, the man who goes berserk, Troy Sergey. Troy, how's it going, man? How are you?
Going good, man. Hey, guess what? It was 61 degrees here in Ohio this afternoon. You and I did, Sean.
What?
I went out with my basketball. I drove to the local park and I played basketball for about an hour this afternoon. And it was amazing.
Let's go, dude.
Awesome, man.
That's incredible, dude. It's springtime. It's the beginning of March Madness. It's just a good time of year, man. I mean, I'm not going to lie. This is kind of like the lull in the NBA season before we hit the playoffs. You know what I mean? I believe we're about a little less than we're about a month away from when the play-in tournament starts, which
is insane.
Yeah, which I am so excited for. The Pistons only have 14 games left in their schedule. So it is the butt crack of the NBA season, man. We are getting right down to the tail of it. And we got a lot to talk about because this is From Half Court, where each and every week Troy and I sit down and talk all things NBA basketball. If you like that, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share with your friends. We are also available on all the podcast services that your heart could possibly desire. And with that, Troy, the NBA has not quieted down this March. I can't believe the amount of 40-point games we have seen since the All-Star break. I mean, Trae Young just had 2 in a row. Jason Tatum had that insane run. Apparently, the team in LA that must not be named can't win if a certain kid from Akron can't score 50 points. I mean, Troy, what's going on, man? Like, all these guys are exploding offensively.
Yeah, Reggie Miller said it well last night on ESPN. He said, when one player does it, that inspires the whole league of talent to try to do it itself.
Yeah.
And we see that.
Yeah.
Trae Young was a great example of tonight. Even Joker had a great game, and Embiid had a great game as well. But the Tatum thing, I think, is the most important, worthy of our discussion, because he's been playing great too. And it's, again, it all piggies back to how deep this league is, Sean. And the depth of this league is why I've tried to watch almost every game, at least the highlights, all season long. Like, it's so fun to keep up with this league this year.
Yeah, and to my knowledge, there's only 3 guys this year with multiple 50-point games, and it's Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Jason Tatum. And it just feels to me like we're just seeing guys really starting to insert their names, like, just in the upper echelon of NBA stars. You know what I mean?
Right.
And to me, like, I look no further. I can't just stop raving about that team in Boston, just with what Jason Tatum's been able to do and grow into this year. And he's only 19. That's my favorite running joke about Jason Tatum. It never gets old. But yeah, it's everybody. It's unreal. And, watching and each and every night, there's marquee games and things in the calendar that you can't miss. I mean, I feel like we had the biggest game of the year last week with the Nets Sixers game. And I don't know about you, Troy, but I was glued to my TV during that. That was a insane matchup.
A little bit of a blowout, though.
Not a little bit. I mean, got out of hand. You know what I mean? Like, I was expecting it to be at least a little bit more competitive. I really was favoring Philly in that matchup. I thought Joel Embiid was going to want to make a statement with Ben Simmons sitting on the bench. But
there's a beautiful man named Kevin Durant that exists.
I forgot about Kevin frickin' Durant, man. And that's on me, betting against one of my favorite players in the world, perhaps the best player alive, Kevin freaking Durant. Him and Kyrie Irving both just put on a clinic. And I've never seen Kyrie Irving take a defensive matchup so seriously in my entire life. I mean, he put the clamps on Harden. He went 3 of 17 from the field.
That's nuts. That is an absolute bonkers stat, Sean.
Yeah, and on top of that, you have Joel Embiid, who he didn't play much better. He kind of went out and laid an egg as well. And I'm not gonna lie, Troy, I'm feeling concerned about what's going on in Philly. They've only played 8 games together. All right, in those 8 games, they're 6-2 so far. They're doing well. However, again, this was the most like a playoff atmosphere that we are going to get before these teams actually get into that time of the year.
And even tonight, Sean, against Denver, that was a similar playoff environment. I hate to say it, but and a marquee matchup. Of course, it was out west, but a marquee matchup that unfortunately did not go the Sixers' way if you're cheering for them.
Well, and of late, just James Harden the past 3 or 4 games hasn't been a factor offensively. I mean, I never have watched a game like where James Harden just felt less involved than I did tonight, in particular against Denver. And again, to me, this is why I have a hard time picking the 76ers, because this team, it just seems like they don't have that clutch factor. Now, Joel Embiid, obviously tonight, there was as a recording, there was also the matchup where the Sixers face off against the Denver Nuggets. The first time we saw Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid play each other in almost 3 years, just with how things have been because of injury. I believe the last time they played was in 2019. So the fact that this was the first time we've gotten this matchup in quite a while, and both guys took it very seriously and went at each other all night. And for the majority of it, Philly had control. However, it was the play of the Denver Nuggets bench. Guys like Bones Highland coming in and getting 21
I'm impressed
points.
With that guy.
Yeah.
I'm impressed by that guy.
Yeah, Bones Highland, a rookie, coming off the bench, getting 21 points, 7 of 14 from the field, 4 of 9 from 3. But like, is it me, Troy, or do the Philadelphia 76ers just kind of look sluggish on the defensive end? Like,
yeah, it's tough. It's tough because they had such a good first half, Sean, and I think I don't know, maybe they just get tired at the end of the game, but
it was the second night of a back-to-back. That is important to note.
Right. But they even went to OT against Orlando last night, Sean, and they were fully healthy, and they go to OT against Orlando.
I mean, the thing is, like, we're talking about James Harden, like, having like a struggling night. The thing is, I go and look at the stat sheet. James Harden had 24, 11, and 9. He had almost a triple-double, but it was the quietest 24, 11, and 9 I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, it felt like he did nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's a great playmaker. He's a great passer. He can get guys in positions. And, like, the ball movement of the 76ers is something that definitely sticks out. I mean, you had guys like, Matisse Thybulle was out there hitting shots.
Yeah, big game by him.
Yeah,
but I think, Sean, too.
6 steals. He was a menace.
Yeah. To your point about the quiet night with Embiid, it's hard to be magnified when you're shooting as many free throws as he is a game too.
Mm-hmm.
He's leading the league in free throw attempts. And
I'm talking about Harden having a quiet game. I'm talking about.
I thought you were talking about Embiid. Okay,
no, I said Harden.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Embiid had a monster night. He had 30. Mm-hmm. He had 34 points. He took the matchup very seriously. I think for the majority of the night, I think Joel Embiid looks like the better of the two for the majority of the night. However, when it mattered most, Nikola Jokic came through. He hit that crazy shot at the end. He had those.
That was awesome. That was a good shot, man.
Multiple
should have been an and one. Should have been an and one.
Should have been an and one. Absolutely. And like in the first thing after that, he yells saying that should have been an and one. If I were him, I'd be asking how in the hell I made that, because it was the weirdest. It was the weirdest looking shot. But that's the thing about Jokic, man. Yeah. His game is so unconventional, but he can score in so many ways. He can finish in so many ways. He can get the ball to his teammates. I mean, just the sheer overall skill set of Nikola Jokic. And it does. Whenever these guys do face off, or whenever we do talk about the best bigs in the league, I mean, it's Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and everybody else, right? These guys are the top two. And I did have a video that released as a recording. It'll go up tomorrow, but as of this coming out, it will have already been out. So check that out, be in the link below. It's kind of just which big is best. And it's a difficult question to answer because you could make legitimate arguments for both. Now, Troy, I personally, you and I have been debating this even over the past week, and I've been debating this with other people. I think Nikola Jokic is the answer, and I think if you look at what he does statistically, if you look at as far as availability, if you look at overall clutch factor, like everything, I think if you take the overall game that Nikola Jokic plays, I think he's the best player. I think you can make a legitimate argument for Nikola Jokic being the best player in the world. But there's a legitimate argument for both. Troy, I know you came at me on Twitter and said statistically Joel Embiid is more consistent, and you said stats don't lie.
Not my brightest moment.
And my favorite thing was how you shared no stats. But Troy,
stats don't lie, but no stats don't lie even more.
Yeah, I was like, you're right, Troy. Stats don't lie. Let's talk about them. And I mean, if you compare them, I mean, they are very similar. Now, Joel Embiid does lead in the scoring category. However, Jokic is double in passing. He shoots, again, every time I see Nikola Jokic's efficiency, it blows my freaking mind. Right. He averages shooting 57% from the field, Troy. 57%. Yeah. And this isn't a guy that just lives in the paint. I mean, he's all over the court. He's a 3-level scorer. Both of these guys are. So Troy, watching this game tonight, watching these guys over the course of time, if you were building a franchise and you had the choice between these two guys, who are you taking? Which big do you like better?
Yeah, Sean, honestly, after tonight, it's got to be the Joker. I mean, I'm not just saying it because the Nuggets won. I'm saying that because of the impact he had on the game.
Yeah.
That's my argument right there. I think Jokic is a guy who can assist the ball. And I guess I never really realized how good his passing was. I've seen Nuggets play quite a bit. I've watched Joker play all year, but I don't think I've watched a full start to finish Nuggets game until tonight. And man, how he facilitates the basketball, Sean, and how he impacts the game on the defensive end as well. I think he's a bigger asset to the Nuggets than Embiid is to the Sixers.
Yeah, and
I think that's the best argument right there.
In my opinion, I think if you watch these guys both play, it's hard to say that there is a player in the game of basketball that affects winning at a higher level than Nikola Jokic. I mean, right. This Denver Nuggets team, I mean, first of all, both of these teams, very similar situations. I mean, Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic both had to overcome a lot of adversity in the beginning of the careers. Joel Embiid with his health, Nikola Jokic being a 43rd overall pick, being drafted through a Taco Bell commercial. And now being one of the best players in the world.
Yeah.
And now being in a season where Nikola Jokic has been without DeJounte Murray and without Michael Porter Jr., for this team to be 6th in the Western Conference outside of the play-in picture. We talk about all the players that the Lakers have missed throughout the year. Damn it, I brought up the Lakers. I said we weren't going to.
Yeah, I know how to do that, Sean.
But just for this case, just for this argument, we're not talking about them. I'm just showing in contrast, and where everyone was talking about how screwed they were. I mean, look at the pieces that Nikola Jokic has around him, right? I mean, like, who's his second best player? Aaron Gordon? Monte Morris?
Or, I mean, Morris is playing well, too.
Yeah, Monte Morris. Will Barton?
Yeah, Will Barton, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, and then off the bench, I mean, it took a great game out of Bones Highland. He had 21 points tonight. Absolutely great.
Legit.
Yeah.
But that goes to my argument too, Sean. I mean, the guy impacts his team more than Embiid does.
Exactly. And I think that's ultimately the point. I mean, like, Embiid, he's the reason why they're in this position right now too, right? I mean, throughout the year, he didn't have Ben Simmons. Obviously, now they have James Harden, so things are a little bit different. However, even if you look at like the rosters and just compare them, I mean, it's easy to say like Embiid carried them, but like look at his supporting cast, because like for the majority of the year, Seth Curry was on his roster alongside Tyrese Maxey, Matisse Thybulle, Tobias Harris, like Danny Green. Like he has an entire roster of guys that are by no means scrubs. If anything, like Tyrese Maxey is proven to be a borderline all-star caliber player. So if I'm looking at like what they've done and like what they've had or what they've been asked to do, I mean, Nikola Jokic is just a winner. And every facet of his game, he just makes winning basketball plays. And I'm just blown away every single time I watch those guys face off on a basketball court, man. And, I'm hard pressed to see, like I'm thinking earlier about like what teams are we overlooking in the NBA playoff picture. And there's two that come to mind because I think that there are some stories we're not talking about. Specifically, I'm thinking of the Denver Nuggets and I'm thinking of the Los Angeles Clippers. Hear me out, Troy.
Okay.
What if both teams get their young stars back healthy come playoff time? Imagine if the Denver Nuggets are able to get DeJounte Murray and Michael Porter Jr. back. Imagine if the Clippers,
Wait, DeJounte Murray? That's the guy.
Jamal
Murray.
Murray. Jamal Murray. My apologies. Jamal Murray. Yeah, Jamal Murray. My apologies. Yeah, I said that a couple times. Dang it. But yeah, Jamal Murray. Like, if they get Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. back.
Yeah, Porter Jr. is great.
Like, if they get those guys back and they're playing well come playoff time, this is a team that 2 years ago made the Western Conference Finals. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not saying they're cracking the top of the Western Conference, but are you telling me the Golden State Warriors would want to face Jokic in the playoffs? Hell no. Mm-mm. Imagine a playoff series where you have James Wiseman having to go up against Nikola Jokic. I mean, more than likely, Draymond Green would probably take a brunt of that. But even then, that's not a favorable matchup.
There's not much he can do.
There's not. That's not a great matchup for Draymond Green either. So if I'm looking at that team, and then also the Clippers, there's rumblings of if Kawhi and Paul George are back and ready to go. Even if they just get one of them, they can make some noise in the Western Conference playoffs. Troy, am I crazy at all? Are these teams that you're looking at or keeping an eye on, or what do you think their seasons are just shot and we should just be excited for what's coming next year for these guys?
No, not shot. I guess I probably wouldn't be one to make all those analysis together like you did. Like, I guess I never really thought about, what would happen to the Nuggets if they got Murray or Porter Jr. back. And I haven't given Wiseman much thought either. But no, these are guys who are not out. These are teams that are not out. They have impact players who can impact the game tremendously on both ends of the court. And I think a guy like Jokic, again, can carry that team no matter what's around him. So to say that the Nuggets are out would be foolish because you have arguably the best player, like you said, in the world on your team.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think
MVP.
Right. I don't think any of these teams who are at least in the top 6 seed, even in the East too, like on both sides, I don't think either your 6 you can count out East and West, Sean. Mm-hmm. I really don't think so.
Yeah, 100%. And it's just interesting because this time of year is really where you start to see what teams are kind of made of, right? I mean, I think Philly, I think everyone expected them immediately just to be, off the ground running and just have this dominant run until the playoffs. But I think we're seeing those growing pains for Philly. I think we're seeing, Harden having to adjust his game because let's be honest, he can't just go out and dominate the ball every night. And for Joel Embiid, I mean, there's only so much he can do, right? I mean, the supporting cast around him is they got to be better. I mean, looking at the Sixers and what they had tonight. I mean, you have Tyrese Maxey. He had himself a pretty good game, but outside of that, Matisse Thybulle, he did everything on the defensive end you could possibly ask like Matisse Thybulle to do. But then you look at the rest of the roster and you get guys like, Danny Green who put up a donut on the offensive end. You look at guys
every team he's been on, Sean, he impacts.
Yep.
It's just a fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he does, but Danny Green hasn't been that great so far as a Sixer. I think especially it seems like after that Laker year, it just seems like Danny Green has just started to kind of, go down a little bit. Obviously, he's Danny Green. He's still a super valuable player, by no means a scrub. But I mean, and then you look at Tobias Harris, who he just, ever since he's been a 76er, it seems to me like he's struggled to find his offensive game, especially in this lineup. I mean, you need Tobias Harris to go out and get you more than 10 points if you need to succeed, right? I think we look at this roster, and after the trade deadline, when you automatically just put those two players together of Joel Embiid and James Harden, it's easy to just go, that's the favorite right there. That team is winning it all. But I wouldn't go so far, Troy. We're in the final month of the season right now, and there is a lot that can happen. However, there is a lot that also we can learn as well. And so I think for the Philadelphia 76ers, especially after a couple disappointing games, especially that dud they put out against the Brooklyn Nets, I think there's definitely a lot to look at as well. But on the team that was on the flip side of that matchup, the Brooklyn Nets, they have as many questions as answers right now too. Troy, did you hear the latest injury update on Ben Simmons?
I haven't.
He isn't even cleared to run yet.
I didn't realize that.
Apparently, over the course of the All-Star break, Ben Simmons aggravated his back and is dealing with back issues. And ever since joining the Nets, he did apparently have a setback, and he's been cleared to do individual jump shooting practice. However, has not been cleared for running yet. And so there is still no timetable for Ben Simmons to return.
Man.
So for the Brooklyn Nets to deal with both the fact that we have no clue when Ben Simmons is returning, hopefully before the regular season ends. That would be the hope, right? But on the flip side, you have the Kyrie Irving situation, which is only getting worse. By the way, I'm sorry. I just saw I know we said we wouldn't talk about them, but the Raptors are already up 15-2, 4 minutes into the game. Anyway.
Yeah, I just saw 13-2 with the team that shall not be named. But
Lakers. Anyway, with that, Troy, the latest with the Kyrie Irving situation, obviously being that he can now attend Brooklyn Nets games, sit front row, not wear a mask, be in the building.
Right.
However, cannot play basketball.
Right. Yeah.
In the city of New York. And the mayor has been adamant, coming out saying that Kyrie Irving can be on the court. All he has to do is get vaccinated. And Troy, I'm going to go out on a limb. I don't think Kyrie Irving
all yours, buddy.
I don't think he's going to get vaccinated. I feel pretty comfortable saying that. But Troy, on one hand, I sit there and I am flabbergasted that this is a thing, right? I mean, as far as rules, it makes sense. It just doesn't make sense. Players that are unvaccinated can come into New York. They can play as well. Kyrie Irving can't play. However, it comes back to the fact that, did we not know that this was going to be an issue for the entire season? Right?
We did, Sean. This goes without said.
It's not news, and it's hard. And on one hand, it's like, we want to see Kyrie Irving on a basketball court, right? Because Kyrie Irving on a basketball court is still one of the best players in the world. Kyrie Irving just over this past week had a 50-point game himself. However, Kyrie Irving over the course of Brooklyn's final 15, 14 games, you know how many games Kyrie Irving's going to be able to play down the stretch of this season, Troy?
Maybe 6.
4.
Wow.
So for the Brooklyn Nets, you're in a situation where being on your home court is a disadvantage. And Kyrie Irving even went into the locker room after the Knicks game where Kevin Durant scored 50 points. And he was fined $50,000 for being in the locker room because that's their place of work. So Troy.
Yes, that was a big thing. And it sounds like that was the Nets. The NBA is blaming the Nets more than they're blaming Kyrie Irving. Actually,
right.
They're not blaming Kyrie Irving at all.
Right. Well, yeah, they find the Nets organization, which, I mean, they're the ones that allowed him in the locker room. So I think that's valid.
Yes.
But Troy, where are you sitting with this? Like, I mean, with this Brooklyn Nets situation, I just find myself frustrated because it's, I know if they put all the pieces together and Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving are on a basketball court together, it is hard pressed to think any team can beat them in a 7-game series.
Yeah.
However, how many of those games can Kyrie Irving play in? Mm-hmm. Right now, 3 to 4 at best. Right. So Troy, what are you thinking right now about the Brooklyn Nets?
Yeah, I'm thinking a lot of things. So, it was very interesting to see, him just, I guess, buy a ticket to the game, right? And sit front row and watch his Nets play against, who were they playing? The Knicks the other night, right?
Yep.
And, and it's sad because, I'm vaccinated, you're vaccinated. It's proven to at least work, right? Right. Not only to hurt you, but also to work, right? So you're kind of doing two good things here. You're protecting yourself and you're protecting others, right? You kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Mm-hmm. So I still can't wrap my head around, his argument. I understand he practices a little bit different faith than I do of, Islam, but I still don't really understand about getting the vaccine. I just get it and play. And I think he's showing maybe not all in he is. I think he's showing everyone that he's 95 or 96% all in. Yeah. But he's not 100% all in. And Sean, to win a championship, you need all 5 guys. You even need your 6th, 7th, and 8th guy to all be 100% all in to win a championship. Right. So with Kyrie being, I'm going to say 95, 96% all in, I can't see the Nets going past the Eastern Conference Finals.
Well, you can even make the legitimate case that this team they would probably still have James Harden if Kyrie Irving was vaccinated.
Unbelievable. That's a crazy thought, Sean.
If Kevin Durant didn't go down, if Kyrie Irving was available, it is hard pressed for me to think that James Harden would request a trade to go to Philadelphia, right?
Yes.
But Kevin Durant gets injured. They go down this midseason slump. James Harden gets frustrated with the supporting cast that he has, and he pushes his way to Philadelphia. So to me, like to think about the fact that Kyrie Irving takes no responsibility in this, no accountability. And even Kevin Durant calling out the mayor of New York. Listen, I mean, the politics of the vaccine, whatever. There's no politics or arguments of the fact that the vaccine works. The vaccine's safe. The vaccine's helping us. It's a big part of why we're in the situation we're in right now where COVID's kind of going away. But anyway, with that, I mean, not really going away, but I mean, being
under control. We're not where we were 2 years ago at this time.
Under control, more subdued. We can live a regular life and not be as afraid of COVID.
Yeah.
But James Harden, but Kyrie Irving, again, we knew all year that this would be an issue. Mm-hmm. And now we are getting to playoff time, and Kyrie Irving and the Brooklyn Nets relied on the city of New York to change their stance. I think you got to stop hoping for that, and I think you got to start hoping that Kyrie Irving changes his stance, because I can't see a world where come playoff time, all of a sudden, the mayor of New York, the way he's been talking, just goes, yeah, let's lift that mandate. Why not? You know what I mean? I'm just hard pressed to. It just doesn't seem like it's going to happen.
It's not going to happen, Sean.
Another thing, and kind of going back to that Sixers Nuggets game we were watching earlier, I sent you a text And I can't stop thinking about this scenario that I threw out to you, because DeMarcus Cousins is currently a member of the Denver Nuggets and is the backup center to Nikola Jokic. And I texted you saying, Troy, imagine if 5 years ago you would have told us that we would be watching the two best big men in the world going head to head on national television, and DeMarcus Cousins was the backup. I would have told you if I saw 5 years from now, or if it was 5 years ago and I saw footage of DeMarcus Cousins versus Joel Embiid facing off on ESPN, Nuggets, Sixers, my thought would have been, the Nuggets traded for DeMarcus Cousins? How did they get one of the best big men in the world? Yet in reality,
and still keep Jokic.
But yet it's Jokic coming off the bench. I mean, 5 years ago, Jokic was a rookie. You know, he was a young guy, not in this spot. I mean, talk about a decline in a career, man. I mean, ever since that torn Achilles, DeMarcus Cousins has struggled to find a spot in the league. I mean, Troy, I don't know about you, man. I watched DeMarcus Cousins and I just think, what if? Right? I mean, what if this guy never went down with that torn Achilles? He was playing special basketball before he was injured. I mean, Troy, what are your thoughts on the DeMarcus Cousins situation?
Yeah. You know, I think it's another situation of, you know, I guess greatness diminishing, but also age getting the best of someone, especially an incredible athlete like him. But yeah, I think, you know, we see this with Drummond as well. You know, a guy who was seen as a top 5 center in the league, maybe even top 3 at times. And now the backup on a role team, a team that has a chance to, you know, be a contender, but not actually maybe be the favorite. And yeah, it's unfortunate. You know, he had a little stint with Milwaukee around Christmas time.
Played pretty well for them. Pretty decent. Not bad.
Yeah, he really didn't play too well, but not good enough to have a long-term stint with the team, unfortunately.
Right.
But, you know, he's a guy, Sean, that, yeah, I think what we're seeing now is what we're going to see for the rest of his career, unfortunately. You know?
Yeah. What we're seeing now is more than likely what we're going to get. And, you know, unfortunately for him, there is no injury in the game of basketball that is more devastating than a torn Achilles, right? I mean, we've seen John Wall struggle with it. We've seen Klay Thompson, you know, kind of coming back and starting to find his form again. We'll talk about Klay in a second. But on the side of being a big man, there is, especially for big men, there is no worse injury than a torn Achilles. And, you know, I think we've seen that really be a struggle for DeMarcus Cousins. And so, you know, I hope, obviously, I hope good things for him going forward. You know, it's obviously a bummer that he's no longer this force in the league that he used to be. But I mean, you know, that's just, that's just the way that it goes, Troy.
It is, Sean.
Yeah, 100%. Speaking of a team that's been dealing with some injury issues, Troy, the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah, they got LeVert back tonight. They look pretty good. They won in overtime against the Clippers.
Yeah. Evan Mobley with a career high got 33 points. Darius Garland got 27 himself. That duo playing really well. However, I mean, Troy, this was a team that was a third. This was a team that was like the third seed in the. This is a team that was a third seed in the Eastern Conference about a month or two ago.
Even probably 3 weeks ago, Sean.
Yeah, and now, ever since the injuries have hit, this team is free falling, Troy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's unfortunate
and
for a Cavs fan.
Yeah, I believe I heard the statistic tonight going into the game that it was their 25th different starting lineup that they threw out there this year. 25 different starting lineups.
But to think that they're still a playoff team, Sean, is remarkable. Yeah. Thinking at what their roster, I mean, they really haven't changed much of their roster besides adding LeVert. But, 7 months ago, Sean, Lauri Markkanen, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, Darius Garland, we would have said, decent team, maybe a 10th seed.
Yeah, like a play-in.
9th if you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
But Sean, it wasn't the case, and a lot has to do with Mobley, and a lot has to do with the development and the, I'll just say it, all-star caliber season that Jared Allen's had.
And Darius Garland too.
And Darius Garland too.
Yeah.
So to have 2 all-stars on your team, I don't think I would have predicted that. And to probably have your rookie of the year, hate to say it, on your team as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm just incredible, beyond blown away of, where this team is at more than anything.
For sure. But another thing with that, though, we looked at them as a team that was, sitting comfortably up towards the top of the Eastern Conference. Troy, this is how quickly the league can change, and this is how drastically fast things can be different. At this current time, as of recording, the Toronto Raptors are a game and a half back of the Cleveland Cavaliers in the 6th
Also
seed.
at this time, the Toronto Raptors are beating the team that shall not be named 30-6.
This is why we don't talk about that team anymore. 6 points in 1 quarter.
Yeah.
6. Oh my God. Wait, hold on. Yep, and okay, yep, we're just gonna say LeBron's on the court and they only have 6 points. Avery Bradley scored 4 of their 6 points. Jesus Christ. Oh my God. But anyway, with the Cleveland Cavaliers, now they're in a situation where if they don't get healthy and they're not able to win a good amount of games going down the stretch, and the Toronto Raptors, a team that is starting to, kind of find their rhythm a little bit. They're in their last 10. They've won their last 3. They're on a little bit of a winning streak. It seems like Scotty Barnes is starting to have some good play. There is a realistic shot, Troy, that we could be looking at a play-in game between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Brooklyn Nets. Can you imagine?
Dang. I'm watching that game. I'm buying all the popcorn in the world, and I am watching that game, Sean.
Yeah. Now, obviously the thing is, that would be the 7-8 game. So whoever loses, they would have a second chance at, at getting in. So it's not like whoever loses that game would automatically be out. However, if I'm the Cleveland Cavaliers, I am hanging on for dear life because they're going to have a difficult stretch coming up. And, these final, they only have 14 games left.
They play Denver on Friday, Sean, and then Detroit on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have a difficult back-to-back coming. On top of that, they got, so actually, it looks like not only, they actually play on Wednesday, they play the 76ers.
Again?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I guess they played them not too far ago.
Yeah. It was about a week or 2 ago, it looks like. But yeah, like going down the stretch, it looks like, all right, let's look at their remaining schedule, okay? They got at home against Philly, at home against Denver, at home against Detroit, at home against the Lakers. So 2 of those games are 2 to 3 of those games are very winnable, right?
Yeah.
Philly, I think it's chalked. But then they go on the road against Toronto, and then they got Chicago, they got Orlando, they got Dallas, and then they go on the road and they face the Hawks, the Knicks. They have Philly again down the stretch, and then they have to their final 2 games of the season, Troy, at Brooklyn, at home against the Bucks. And obviously it depends on who, if they're going to be resting stars or not. I know Brooklyn won't. I know Brooklyn's going to have their guys out there because they're going to need to, right? But this is a team that a couple months ago we were talking about having home court in the first round of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Now might not even be in the playoffs if they don't make it through the play-in. Talk about how quickly things can change. Right, Troy?
Yeah, definitely, Sean.
So that's going to be a situation to keep our eyes on for sure. Another situation I've been keeping my eye on, and I just can't keep talking about enough. Tyrese Halliburton and the Indiana Pacers currently have a better record than the Sacramento Kings since the trade deadline, Troy.
Who could have predicted that, Sean?
I could.
I could too, buddy. I could too.
And it's not even been because of like De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox has been outstanding of late. He's been averaging upper 20s since Tyrese Halliburton has left, but they got no help. I mean, even when Sabonis is on the court, I mean, he's playing fine, but like, it's kind of what my problem was with the trade to begin with. I mean, he's good, but he doesn't affect winning. If he did, the Indiana Pacers probably wouldn't have needed to trade him because they probably would have been in a better position.
And even just the positionness of that trade, Sean, like a power forward for a point guard. I mean, like I'm talking a little more on Sacramento's perspective. Like,
yeah, it just feels
you trade away your franchise player for a guy who you know what you're gonna get out of him. And what you're going to get is not even remotely close to what you're going to get out of your, honestly, franchise player. Now, Fox has been playing a little better, but it's freed him up a little bit. But the Pacers their quote unquote rebuild definitely is a lot closer to being competitive than any other short-term rebuild I've ever seen.
Hey, Troy, let's play a game. I want to read these two records. I want you to tell me which team's rebuilding, which team is winning now. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. One team is 23-46. The other team is 24-45. Which team's rebuilding? Which team's winning now? Because apparently one of them is saying we're gonna go and win the whole thing with Domantas Sabonis. Unreal.
Is that team honestly only 23 games?
The Sacramento Kings have won 24 games.
Okay. 24. One game ahead, and they have totally two different worldviews of what their team is all about.
One team said, we got to cash in. The other said, we got to change. I just, and for this to happen too, and for them to be in a worse spot than the Portland Trailblazers and the New Orleans Pelicans, it's unreal, man. I mean, it says something that this team is worse. And again, this will be the last time we say this team's name tonight, the Los Angeles Lakers. Every single time I check in on this trade, Troy, it gets worse. And I have no idea how that's humanly possible. But Troy, they found a way, didn't they?
Yeah, they sure did, Sean.
Oh my goodness. It is it is just it is an interesting time in the league right now. And as of recording, we are only a month away from the play-in tournament. We are only a month away from the NBA playoffs. And while we wait, you know what's going to be there to entertain us, Troy? March Madness. Now, real quick, before we get into From Mount Rushmore, I know you and I both have not paid as much attention to college basketball this year, and whatever attention we did pay it was really more so in the direction of looking at who we want on our Detroit Pistons.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, Troy, if you had to pick your favorite right now to win the whole dance, who do you got? And
I have a really hard time not going with Gonzaga, Sean.
Same here, man.
Dude, the more I see them play, the more I see the development that Chet has had over the past 4 months. Like college kids can't compete with this guy, Sean.
Nope. They can't. They can't hang. And I am fully expecting Chet Holmgren just to have this crazy run in March. I think Jabari Smith Jr. I think Jaden Ivey.
Yeah.
I mean, the more I see of Jaden Ivey, dude.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Sean.
Oh Ivy's
fun. Ivy's fun, man.
He is. And again, I always like to, I like to pump the brakes on the Ja Morant comparisons because Ja Morant is a borderline MVP candidate. His athleticism is out of this world. He doesn't have that athleticism, but you know what he does have that's similar to John Morant, they can go out there and get theirs. They can go out there and get a bucket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they can put
Right.
their team he can put his team on his shoulders if need be. And I'm not going to lie, thinking about a backcourt of Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey, dude.
Yeah. And, you kind of want a big, you kind of want a four that can stretch the floor. But if you get a generational point guard talent, Sean, that can go alongside and can work with Cade, you got to draft the best available player.
100%.
And Ivy could be him, but again, we've said this before, we'll say it again. There's a good chance that the Pistons draft pick will be chosen for him because of the lottery order.
Yeah.
That's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5, whatever. It very well could be given to them more than they have to pick and choose and debate and, have tremendous workouts where that decision has to be made. I think the order will decide more than the workouts.
Yeah, 100%. And, I think that is a very, very valid way to look at it. Now, before we get talking more about March, I would be remiss if we didn't spend the last little part of the regular part of our podcast talking about Cade Cunningham and our Detroit Pistons, Troy. We got to talk about him at least once a week, right? We always got to throw something in there. Now, Cade Cunningham, in case people at home have not been paying attention, has been going off. In the month of March, Cade Cunningham is averaging 23 points, 8 rebounds, 5.8 assists, 44% from the field, 36% from 3, 89% from the line. Every game he's had so far in the month of March, he's scored over 20 points. The other night at home against the Clippers, in 44 minutes, almost gets a triple-double. In 41 minutes in Boston, for the majority of the game, looked like the best player in the arena.
Yeah.
Troy, since the All-Star break, Cade Cunningham leads the NBA in the most clutch points. That list, by the way, second, John Morant with 32. Third, DeJounte Murray with 27. Fourth, Nikola Jokic with 26. And fifth, Sadiq Bey with 25. And I know right now we're losing games. I mean, the bench is injured. There's only so much that Cade can do, but Troy, I also made a video this week talking about I think Cade Cunningham's ceiling can be very high, and in my opinion, I think the league should be terrified right now. What are your thoughts, Troy? What have you seen from him?
Yeah, I think we're seeing honestly, I hate to say it, the coming out party still of Cade Cunningham,
Yes.
Sean. Still the coming out party. You have to understand, the kid's just turned 20, right? He just turned 20 years old. He's a guy that does have that generational talent. He's a guy that I think long-term, when looking at point guards of the future, a guy like LaMelo Ball, who is, balling out, right? I think Cade Cunningham still has the better career than LaMelo Ball. I even think of a guy like Darius Garland.
Yeah.
I think Cade Cunningham's the better player to revolve, and to build my team around. So, Sean, looking ahead, we're seeing just the start of Cade Cunningham, which is so exciting. And I back in the summer, you told me a good comparison that you see is a Jason Tatum type of, I guess, point forward kind of deal with Cade.
Yeah.
And the more I think about that, the more I like that.
Oh, dude, the more I watch him play, the more I see it. Like he just, like I see just that Jason Tatum type of dog about him. But I think what Cade has that Tatum didn't have at the beginning of his career, and we're starting to see more of, is I think Cade can make the guys around him better more naturally than
Yeah.
Jason Tatum did to start his career. I think that was something that teammates like Marcus Morris had to challenge him.
Mhm.
I think him and Jaylen Brown had to learn how to do that together.
Right.
I think Cade Cunningham came to the league knowing how to do that. And I
Yeah.
think over the year he's learned how to get better at it. And I just the ceiling of Cade Cunningham should terrify the
Yeah.
rest of the league.
Yeah. I think that's a great thing to say is the ceiling of him. And I still don't know 100% his ceiling, but the point forward type of Jason Tatum,
Mhm.
I think that is a great comparison, Sean. And I
Mhm.
think going ahead, I think the league has a lot to look out for this guy, man.
They do.
He's a guy that can give you, I think he can give you a triple double a lot of nights, Sean,
Mhm.
moving forward. Maybe
Mhm.
not this season, but in the future, I see a walking triple double.
Yeah, 100%.
Am I wrong to say that? I
No,
don't
not
think
at
so.
all. Not at all. Now, Troy, not to drastically change topic here. However, I did see some breaking news.
Okay.
Karl Anthony Towns
Yeah.
finished with a franchise record 60 points
Mhm.
against the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, that's worth our time for sure. That's history.
60 points.
Cat was 60, man.
The season high, the franchise high. This guy heard us talking about the best bigs in the world and that we didn't mention his name. And he said, not took that personally.
Almost 20 rebounds too, Sean.
Yeah. 17 rebounds,
17.
7-11 from 3. Made it to the line, had 15 free throws. It feels to me like Karl Anthony Towns took the next step as a player this year, Troy. As far as affecting winning, it seems to me like the Timberwolves are actually building something here.
Mhm.
And that's the fact that we're saying that is saying a lot for them, because I don't know about you, Troy. There was a team that I was not confused by their direction more than the Minnesota Timberwolves for quite some time. But Troy, the formula's being put together in front of us, is it not?
No, it is. It definitely is, Sean. And I think that formula consists of Karl Anthony Towns and a guy named Anthony Edwards.
Oh, 100%.
And when you have those guys, two former number one picks, I don't see not necessarily their trajectory being similar to Detroit's, but I see something to look forward to of young guys who can play together and who can make their fan base excited about the future. And I still think they're probably 2 or 3 years away from competing.
Yeah.
And I still think they have a long way to go too with even just organizing and whatever. But
well, Anthony Edwards, he's only in his second year. Like, for them to be serious, I think he has to grow into a more serious player.
Yeah.
I think a guy like D'Angelo Russell has to take on a little bit more responsibility. And, I think he has some room to grow too. I think this is like a good young team. We could be looking at this team very similarly to the Phoenix Suns a few years from now. And I'm not saying that this is a Phoenix Suns caliber team, because the Phoenix Suns are the best team in the NBA, right? But I mean, it's hard to not look at this team and think that there's good things ahead of them, because I mean, we know at the very least that Karl Anthony Towns, he can play.
He can. And we've known that for a while, Sean. And I think he's a guy that's a legitimate threat from the 3-point arc. I think he's a guy that can drive to the hole and beat you that way. But again, a defensive guy too, that can really play all ways in the court. I think he's kind of the embodiment of the future of the big in this league. And there's really not many players. I can really only think of 2 that can do it better than him.
Yeah,
and that's
100%.
Obviously the 2 we saw tonight. So
100%, Troy. I can't agree more. And I think Karl Anthony Towns has firmly set himself as probably the 3rd best big in the world. Okay, a lot of people say Giannis. Troy, I don't view Giannis as a big. I'm going to be honest with you.
He's not a big. He's I think of him more of a 3 than a 4. Is that weird?
He's a 4.
He's definitely a 4, but I feel like he has more 3-ness than 5-ness. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
100%, 100%. Yeah, and even people throw Anthony Davis in there. He hates playing the 5.
Yeah,
He
dude,
hates it.
he's not a
And even
5.
then, he's never healthy. Like, how can I count on that guy? Why would I put him up at the top of that list?
Why think about that guy?
Exactly. There's nothing to think about. What's the conversation?
Yeah.
So, for me, like, it's got to be Karl Anthony Towns. He's got to be that third best big. And, I think to his credit, he got to that point. I think years before you could make the argument he wasn't even in the top 5. But now the Timberwolves are winning games. They're getting better on the defensive end. He's taking over offensively. And, I mean, if they make the playoffs, that's a tough first round.
It is, Sean.
So, I'm excited to see what comes out of that. I'm happy that Karl Anthony Towns is producing at the level that he is, especially after everything he's gone through. And I'm rooting for him, man. Just rooting for him to keep doing stuff like this. But Troy, with that, it is now time for us to head from Mount Rushmore. And Troy, we got a perfect topic today, don't we?
We sure do, Sean.
What is that?
That is going to be, we're doing the Mount Rushmore of best March Madness performances by, I guess, future NBA players. So I guess the only rule of this Mount Rushmore is the players we picked had to have played at least one game in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And the players that we picked had to have at least won one game in March Madness, meaning that, the players that we say don't have to always make the Final Four. They don't always have to make the Elite Eight either. So, Sean, I'm going to let you start. What name comes to mind when we think of best March Madness performances of the past? Let's say forever. We're not going to put a timeline to this. Let's say forever.
Well, there's a couple that come to mind.
Yep.
I think I want to start. I think I want to start small and build up.
Sure.
So with that, my first name that I'm going to throw on this list is Donte DiVincenzo. Mm-hmm. Now, Donte DiVincenzo, I have never seen a player's draft stock in my entire life more affected by one performance. And that performance was in the national championship game against the University of Michigan. Troy, Donte DiVincenzo went off. And people were calling this guy an NBA All-Star based off of one game. I mean, he was a good college player. Don't get me wrong. He was one of the best players on that team. He was consistent, good scorer, good 3-and-D wing. But man, just off of that one game, to end March Madness, national championship, the biggest stage, Donte DiVincenzo had one of the better national championship performances of recent memory.
What year was that, Sean? Was that?
I believe it was 2018.
I was going to say 19.
Yeah,
but 18
let me look it up.
better.
Let me look it up.
Yeah.
But Troy, what do you remember about that performance?
Yeah, I remember the threes, man, and I remember the quickness and the facilitating. Yeah, that was a game. I can't remember. I can't remember exactly where I was when that all happened, but I do remember. The facilitating and the three balls, man. That's what I remember.
Mm-hmm. He was 10 of 15 from the field, 6 of 10 from 3.
Yeah,
and he outscored Michigan 18-14 in the final 12 minutes of the first half.
18-14.
He didn't outscore a player on Michigan. He alone outscored the Michigan Wolverines in the final 12 minutes of the first half, 18-14.
Yeah.
And it's essentially at that point put him away.
Mm-hmm.
He scored 31 points, which in a college game is insane, especially on that Villanova team who could really put it up, So to me, when I think of the Mount Rushmore of the best, March Madness performances by guys that would end up being in the league, I got to look at Donte DiVincenzo and I got to give him his respect because He hasn't done anything that good since, and he's a Sacramento King. So the poor bastard has to get all the praise he can get. You know what I mean?
Yes, Sean, the poor bastard.
Yeah, that poor soul, man.
Yeah, so I'm going to go on my list first to start off with taking it back a little bit, but also starting high, but also starting low because this guy did not do jack beep in the NBA.
You mean Jack?
Yeah. And that guy is going to be a guy from University of North Carolina named Tyler Hansbrough.
Oh, yes. The Hansbrough, dude.
Really? One of, dude, I got to start high with this because the guy truly was one of the best players of the past 20 years in a singular season, Sean. The guy impacted those Tar Heels on every level. And I think,
him and Ty Lawson both back in the day, man.
Yeah. In NBA terms, remember when, back in the 2017-18 era, when we knew it was going to be Cavs and Warriors in the finals, right? We just knew UNC would be in the national championship, and we knew that they're going to win no matter the opponent that they would face. Granted, the opponent that year was my Michigan State Spartans, and of course they lost to Tyler Hansbrough and the University of North Carolina Tar Heels. And that was a game, Sean, it was played at Ford Field, actually, in Detroit. And, Tyler Hansbrough, man, he was a man against boys. He was a good post player. He played the four, a very traditional four, who could rebound the ball, who could do putbacks. I don't know. He was a guy that really impacted the whole March Madness in every way, shape, or form. And got drafted by the Pacers. Didn't really do much there. I think he had a little stint with the Raptors too. Definitely didn't do much there. And he found himself out of the league with about 3 years. So really had one of the worst, probably I can't see us naming another worse player besides maybe one other guy that I'm sure maybe could come up at least in an honorable mention, but we'll get to that guy later. There's no other guy that had such a low impact on the NBA than Tyler Hansbrough, but had such an incredible March Madness. So Sean, do you remember that 2009 March Madness?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. I remember the Tar Heels versus MSU in the Final Four, the national championship game. I just remember him, just his dominance at the college level. He was just that big that could really put it up in the post. He was a high effort player, high character guy. I remember watching him in his Duke, North Carolina matchups, and I remember him being just one of my favorite college basketball players to watch as a kid. And, he was just one of those guys where he was not made for the NBA game, but you know what? At the college level, he could go out there and play with the best of them. And he had an amazing, amazing run in that March Madness. And for my next guy, kind of moving up the ranks of NBA players, when I think of the best March Madness run I've seen and that I think of, the first one that comes to mind is the 2011 Kemba Walker run with the UConn Huskies.
Yes.
So
yes. Inject that to my veins.
So when I think of he was the most outstanding player of the tournament, averaged 23.5 points. They won 11 games in 27 days. And Kemba Walker was the one that made it happen. This team was an 8th seed in the tournament. Kemba Walker had that amazing had those amazing shots. I mean, do you remember the way that he ended the Big East tournament? That game winner in the Garden.
Back at the Garden, Sean. Of course I remember. I was watching that live.
Yeah, and people forget Pitt was favored to win that game. They were the better team. Like UConn wasn't that good.
Yeah.
But it was Kemba Walker. He had an incredible run. And if we're putting together a Mount Rushmore of the greatest March Madness runs,
he has to be there.
He has to be there.
There's no doubt, dude. And even the national championship game, Sean. I mean, you knew UConn was winning. Another scenario of like the most talented team in that tournament, at least when the Elite Eight came around.
Yeah.
And you just knew how it would end.
Yeah, this team, like they were too on fire. Like they just went out there each and every night, and you knew Kemba Walker was going to be the best guy on the court, whoever they were playing, and you knew that he was going to be too much, and that it was going to be, it was going to be overwhelming for whoever they were going to face. And so for me, Kemba Walker has to be on that list.
Yeah, there's no doubt, Sean.
And Troy, with that,
yeah,
I mean, honorable mentions before we get to the final one, right? I
mean,
one honorable mention I'd throw out there, because I'd wager he's not going to be on your list. Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
Had a pretty incredible March Madness run, although it was cut short.
By my Spartans.
Yep, in the Elite Eight. He's one that I throw in there. What's another honorable mention that you got to think of?
Adam Morrison.
Oh my gosh, Adam.
You could Jimmer too, though. Jimmer was in the same year as Kemba.
Yeah, Jimmer's definitely 100%. Yeah, no doubt. But with
Magic Johnson, let's just say it. Larry Bird.
Yeah, Larry Bird. Yeah, incredible. Yeah, incredible. But like, I think the way our list is going, like this is like our lifetime. You know what I mean?
Right. And I'm gonna close. We can still get to honorable mention, but maybe we're gonna disagree on this one. But to me, it was too dominant of a performance to leave out, and that's going to be Anthony Davis, 2012 Kentucky Wildcats.
Okay.
Anthony Davis led that team with Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, I believe, as well. That was a little bit after John Wall and DeMarcus Cousins. That was 2 years after that. Yeah, Devin. No. Devin Booker was 2015.
No, Devin Booker was on that team.
Oh, if he was a freshman.
Yeah, and he was a one and done. He went out with them. Like Anthony Davis is also a freshman.
Devin Booker did not go out with them.
I will make a bet with you right now. Hold on.
I bet Sean any money.
Any money?
Any money. You pick it. I win.
All right, you got it. Hold on. Anyway, keep going.
No, Anthony Davis, just an incredible performance. They were a 1 seed, I believe, and another case where you know that they are going to win every game, and that's exactly what they did. And it was one of those, it's hard being a number 1 seed. It really is hard to be a number 1 seed, Sean, of all the hype that goes around it. But those Wildcats, they just proved to be no match for any other team. So how much money are you paying me, buddy? I
don't want to talk about Troy anyway. With that, wow, I guess I was wrong. Yeah. Look at that. I swore was he with
Booker was the Kentucky team that beat Wisconsin, or no, lost to Wisconsin. In 2015.
He was way okay.
Remember that was the Stanley Johnson draft.
Okay, you know what I was thinking about? He was with Karl Anthony Towns.
Yes, he was with Cat. Yep.
That's okay. That's where I mixed up. That's where I'm going to take the L. My bad.
You're good, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that Kentucky team in 2015.
That was one of the more
was nearly as not. I would say it wasn't as talented as the 2012 team, and it showed.
Yeah, it really did.
It showed, Sean, and I think when looking at both teams, again, honestly, they were too good. They peaked too early. That 2015 team peaked too early with Cat and Booker. They just peaked way too early, and they were not ready. In the final stretches. So
100%. Now, the one name that I think we left off this list, that I immediately recognize we left off this list, Gordon Hayward.
Yeah, Butler, baby, 2010.
Yeah, the
you know what I learned about that year, Sean, is the amount of college applications around the country that high school seniors were pouring into the University of Butler, and they had never heard of the college before Gordon Hayward and the Butler Bulldogs. Of course, they won the Horizon Conference that year. And then they went and marched on way to the Final Four, and was a half-court shot away from. No, did they went to the championship?
Yeah, they were in the net. They were a half-court shot away from winning the
championship.
They played Duke, and it bounced off the front of the rim, off the backboard, off the front of the rim. The closest, the most incredible near make game winner I've ever seen in my entire life. The best miss I've ever seen.
Yeah. I remember watching that game live too, man. Oh man, who did they play that year? Kentucky? No,
they played Duke.
Duke.
They played
Duke.
Coach
Who's
K
on that
and
Duke
Duke.
team? Who's on that Duke team?
2010 Duke team. They had I believe. All right,
Boogie.
let's look here.
No, Boogie went to Kentucky. Never mind.
Yeah. So the 2010 Duke team had Mason Plumlee.
Yeah.
Miles Plumlee.
Yeah.
Kyle Singler.
Yeah.
Had Andre Dawkins, Lance Thomas. It was not their most flashy roster. However,
a team, an effective roster.
Oh yeah, 100%. They got the job done. I mean, Duke, Coach K, the greatest of all time.
Yeah,
and
I hate to try to manipulate your list, Sean, but I would put Hayward over DiVincenzo.
I would too. Now that I think about it, sorry, Dante DiVincenzo. I know you play for the Kings, but that's a bummer. You're not on the list. Better luck next time. I mean, it's just when I look at that, it's just one of those things where, it's just not quite what we're looking for. You know what I mean? And I know Duke men's basketball. They have their they are in the tournament, so they will be alive. I will be curious to see what Coach K can do in his final run.
Besides Paulo, not a lot of talent on this Duke team. Sean.
No, but they're a second seed though.
Yeah, it really is remarkable. With that, Sean, I think even looking at some other honorable mentions in the past too, and you can't leave out Grant Hill and Duke. You can't leave out Chris Webber in Michigan.
Or
Martine Cleaves. Martine Cleaves
in
2000 with the Spartans.
I mean, even Jalen Rose with that Fab Five, Five teams. That just...
Honestly, Sean, every March Madness, one player impacts his team to a point where when you say that year, if it's 2015, 2019, 2022, whatever player impacts the March Madness is the first player you think of when you think of that year's March Madness.
John Morant even went on a little bit of a run when he was
Murray State.
At Murray State, man. I mean, man, like you said, there's just so many good performances that you almost forget, because when they come to the league, they come in and do crazy things on the top level. And it almost makes you forget about all that stuff they did in college, So it's it does, man. Sean. It's going to be a really fun tournament. It's going to be a really fun final month of the season, and there's going to not be a better place to talk about all the action than here from Half Court. Is that right, Troy?
That is right, Sean.
Be sure to follow my guy Troy on Twitter at TroySergey44. Be sure to follow myself at Sean Half Court, and we want to thank you so much for tuning in to From Half Court, where each and every week Troy and I talk about all things of the game we love, and that is the game of basketball. If you like that, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, and leave a comment in the comment section down below. Talk about your favorite moments in March Madness history. We will be celebrating with you, as this weekend we are just going to be watching so much basketball. But with that, we want to thank you so much for tuning in, and we will catch you next time from Half Court. Be sure to subscribe.